What's going on there, YouTube? Got my parts in here for the Bruiser crawler conversion. I guess that's what we'll call it now. Got my RC four-wheel drive Bruiser Yota axle. This was new, sealed. I opened it up to check it. Package is a little damaged. It's been on somebody's shelf for a while, apparently. Got my treasure trove of Hilux parts here. And I've already picked out some of my shackles and stuff that I need. This old Bruiser frame that I bought, I think I got a really good deal on. I can't remember what I paid. I've sold off the transmission and the original axles and stuff like that, and made a little bit of money on it. But someone had painted it silver. Someone had painted the frame and the shackles and the hangers and all that stuff silver. So I know I've sanded the frame down, and I think I've done most of the front suspension, but this stuff all has a really ugly silver paint on it. So, not sure if I'm going to address that right now. I do have somewhere some RC four-wheel drive versions of these parts that we may use instead. They are black, so I'm not sure how that would look with the front being different. Not sure it matters, but yeah, nothing about this is, we're not going for originality. We're just going for scale functionality. So, that being said, let's get the body off here and start looking at that rear suspension. Alright, so I've got my 4-link on there still. We'll remove that here in a minute. I was really proud of that. It's a pretty good setup. I used some RC 4-wheel drive 4-link pieces for the axle truss and the lower mounts that go on the Trail Finder 2 type 4-link setup. I just had those laying around and they work decent for mounting the lower link arms off of the crossmember, the transfer case crossmember. The upper ones I just mounted with some spacers into the frame rail, and it's a pretty good setup. Had a lot of flex. The shocks are too soft for that type of 4-link like that, but it's not, I don't know. The only reason I did that again was because I only had a standard width Yota axle. This is a Yota 2 actually, and these rods I got really cheap on eBay from China. It was one of those things that was just such a good deal. I was like, well, I'll wait a month to get them. And I bought 4 of them. You can see they have a fair amount of slop in the ends. The balls on them are just kind of sloppy. Everything's loose. The upper links are just stock RC 4-wheel drive from a Jalon 2. They're just, what are those? 59mm rods with angled rod ends, and the upper has very little movement at all, and the bottom's just rattling around like crazy. So yeah, you get, I mean, it is all aluminum, and aluminum heads, rod ends. The RC 4-wheel drive ones are plastic, but they don't rattle nearly as bad. So it is what it is. Take that for whatever you want to call it, advice. That is yeah, I mean, that would work, but you know, it's one of those little things, just fit and finish. So we're going to yank this Yota 2 off, and we're going to put this Yota 1 Bruiser width axle. I've got leaf springs. I've got those, actually look like the ones that came off of it. Now, a lot of different things can be done with the Bruisers. So you just have a standard bolt going through the eyelet on the leaf spring. Now, what we did back in the day, truck's falling, we used, like, what was it, speaker wire, or some kind of wire, the coating. You'd strip a little bit of wire, pull the wire through it, and then you'd put it in there like a bushing, so it'd actually be like a leaf spring bushing. But that's cool and all. The original Bruiser came with a piece of metal that went through it, and I'm not sure if I have any of those in my box of parts here. A few things that shouldn't be in here, but there's a piece of rubber that looks like someone had made them before. Like I said, I didn't build this Bruiser originally. Somebody had tinkered with it for a while. Let me get my RC 4-wheel drive spare parts box out. I know I had some somewhere, but I don't know. All you're doing with that is taking out the slack, whether you use the original metal or you're using a rubber version of it. And realistically, you don't need anything. You're going to get more flex yes, it's going to rattle. Yes, it's going to be a little sloppy. The axle might walk side to side just a little bit. But the bolt moving around in this hole, the eyelet, is going to give you a little bit more flex out of the whole entire suspension. If you have that the same way on all four corners, you're going to get a little bit more travel. And I think in the front here I have the original Bruiser ones. If I remember right, I use those. So we still get a fair amount of flex, but you're not going to get quite as much side to side as you would without anything in the eyelets. Now I'm not cutting corners here. I've done this a handful of times in the time I've been building these crawlers. I've had several Bruiser projects. So I'm going to leave them out on the rear. Maybe we can get a little bit more flex out of it. If it rattles too bad, we'll come back and put in some rubber later, but I'm not that worried about it. It's a minute amount of extra movement you're going to get. So if you don't have the parts, I wouldn't worry about it. Go ahead and build it without them, and we'll go from there. Oh wow, there's a dead spider. I wonder where he came from. I don't remember squishing him. Oh, anyway. I tell I haven't been out here in a while. The original hanger and shackles. Sorry, just got home from work. It's been a long day. You have these plastic pieces that go inside the C-channel frame, and it fills some of the void. So when you tighten these down through the rail, to the frame rail, it doesn't just fold the inside in and squish, because these are a little bit flexible. So these you can still buy. I think RC 4-wheel drive remakes them. I've got a new set somewhere over here in my parts pile that are nice and shiny and white. These are old and yellowed, but we're just going to roll with that because I've got the sizes I need. Your front shackles and front hangers and rear shackles and rear hangers have different distances of that spacer, and the shackle itself, the bolts are different. And here's a spare. I think this is a front one. And you can see the bolt holes are kind of further apart. So we're just going to reuse the original parts. If you remember also, the original Bruiser uses these type of plastic doodads here that go on top of the leaf spring or the bottom to mount the shock. We don't need that with the RC 4-wheel drive axle. It has shock holes all over it. There's a couple different options, front and back of the axle, inside and outside. That will be different than what I have set up currently on the Yota 2, since it's not the right width. So we'll have to see if that causes us extra lift or anything. Not sure if you can see that. If you remember my Jalan 2 D110, I've got a whole build series on that. This is the Yota 2 from that chassis. It has my little custom skid plate that I made. It's bolted through the bolts that hold the pinion side of the axle together, and it's held up pretty well. It's been beaten up pretty good. I drove that Jalan 2 quite a bit, and yeah, it's one of those little things, just sheet metal that I bent and hammered and drilled some holes in it, mounted it with those little tiny 2mm screws that hold the pinion side of the axle together. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and rip the rear suspension off this truck, and we'll get the new axle out and start looking at that. Alright, so while we're doing this, I did want to talk to you guys. It's been a while since I've had a video out, and things have been up and down here lately. Not the reason why I quit making videos, I just kind of got burned out a little bit. I had too many kettles in the fire and got overwhelmed. And you get too many projects started and you just can't finish any of them. And that's why I've sold some of my builds, some of the stuff that wasn't finished. The K10 build, I sold that. I sold that to Nightcrawlers 3D. I'm hoping he makes something here out of it. Maybe we can see one of his 3D printed flatbeds with that truck cab. It'd be kind of cool. What else? But I did want to say that it's been nice. I put that video up Sunday, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. And with YouTube, there's so much negativity. You get a lot of people just trolling, just being jerks online, want to poo-poo on what you're doing just because you're kind of successful. I mean, I'm not like I'm making a fortune off of these videos. I'm really not even making enough money to buy another kit anymore. But you know, it's always easier to focus on the negative stuff. And the video's been up for 2 days now, and I've gotten so much positive feedback. Just, you know, even the slightest thing from someone saying, welcome back, glad you're here, liked your videos, stuff like that. That really means a lot, and I appreciate you guys. You know, like I was saying, things have been kind of tough at work lately, so that's why it's Monday night, or Tuesday morning. I worked all night at Monday night at work, and it's kind of a rough situation right now. So to come home and read more awesome comments from you guys, just talking about the hobby and doing, you know, enjoying what I'm doing, and it's good to be back. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to get all mushy on you, but it's good to be back, and it's good to feel like y'all are happy I'm back. So trying to get this thing loose. These shock bolts are a little snug. I could have left the shocks on, I guess, but like I said, we're gonna have to wait and see where they all go once we get the new axle in. So anyway, enough of me rambling on. I want to make this another 20-minute video of me talking. I'm gonna get to work, and we'll pick back up here in a second. Magic of the internet. Alright guys, so excuse me, I got one side on. I'm having to kind of mix and match hardware. Everything else on this truck is scale hardware from Locked Up RC. Really nice scale bolts, but I don't have enough of the sizes I need. All I have left are really, really long or really, really short. So we're having to use some original RC four-wheel drive stuff, and I'm leaving some of the original Bruiser hardware on here with the Phillips head. But I am switching as much as I can over to lock washers or lock nuts, because I don't trust the like that old style one here. I can just spin it right off. On another note, I did have on these rear leaf springs, I did have two of those liners in them, the little sleeves I was talking about earlier. So I did leave those in the shackle end. The front side does not have them, so we'll see even less improvement on the flex there. But yeah, it's going to be really boring while I do this, so I apologize. Excuse me. I'm trying to put some of my new lock nuts on here. It threw me for a loop because I haven't had Phillips head hardware in so long. Trying to get this one tight before I move on to the other side. Now I have the spacers in the frame, the original ones. It's a little tricky to get them lined up. You just gotta wiggle them for a minute. But that ain't gonna work. Nope. I have a Phillips. There's a Phillips. Sorry guys, it's kind of boring. I'm rusty making videos. I have been piecing together odds and ends I have laying around for this truck. So I do want to I hope to run these Mickey Thompsons. They are a bit big. I have here a Savox SA1231. I don't remember exactly how many that is, but it was a pretty expensive servo. I want to say this was a $50 servo, and I think I took that off of my Jalon 2, the D90 that I sold. So yeah, I'm not gonna, for what I sold that for, I wasn't gonna just throw in a $50 servo. It's a big deal for me to have a $50 servo, so I hung on to that. And somewhere I have a 27 turn, here it is, Holmes Hobby Torque Master Expert. And I can't remember, oh, that was in the Trail Finder 2 that had the red body on it, which was where the drivetrain for this one has come from, because that truck no longer exists. I do still have the red body. The red body is on the frame that the blue body was on. It is completely 4-linked front, or 3-link front, 4-link rear. It's got every bell and whistle on it from RC 4-wheel drive, but it has just standard RC 4-wheel drive electronics, so nothing really fancy there. That truck's up for a redo here before long as well, so we'll see what happens with that. But I'm going to go ahead and throw the good motor and stuff in this one once we get there. So, I don't know. I've never had a Bruiser with a good motor. Everything I've run typically had a can motor in it. So I was going to show you these little plastic pieces. This is just standard Bruiser stuff. And it's going to fit inside the rail, and it's going to slide around on you and be a big pain in the butt. But that's how they work. So you got to put this on and then slide through the rail, through the plastic, and it went right on. Look at that. Look at that being good for the camera. And I'm just going to use some standard RC four-wheel drive hardware. Get that one finger tight, and we'll come back and do the next. I think that's the same length. Yeah, there we go. Wiggle, wiggle. That one's a little bit longer, so I'm going to swap it. I'm just trying to keep things consistent. I do want to make another order from Locked Up RC. I had a thing going, and they invited me to be a part of it. And it was like a competition to become a team driver. And I went through like 3 rounds of competition, and nothing ever happened. And everyone just seemed to abandon the Facebook group that we were in for it and all that, so oh well. It would have been neat to be involved with them, because I still, even though that was kind of squirrely, I still really like the product, and I'll continue to use their product despite that awkward situation. But it's lockeduprc.com. They make a lot of really cool crawler, more hardcore crawler stuff. They make some wheels and beadlock rings and stuff like that I've never used, but I like the heck out of their scale hardware. It's really been good quality. Doesn't round off the heads or anything like that, so I like it. Let's see. I'm going to do the rear. Come on. And just kind of eyeball the holes. Now look up the instructions online. There's some websites that have all the, or any Tamiya kit instructions available, and that's handy sometimes when you're doing something like this. So I made sure these were facing the right way, these rear shackle mounts. I hope you can even see that. I think I probably got my big hands in front of it, but they do face that way, and the shackle fits that way. These springs do have quite a bit of arch, so hopefully once we get some weight on it, they will straighten out, and the shackle will fit more like it's supposed to look. Sorry, I'm choking on my bread. I made a sandwich a minute ago. And I have some dinner after work, even though it's 3 a.m. So, like I said, the little sleeve that goes inside of the leaf spring end, I have those in the shackle end, but not on the front end. So I'm going to go ahead and use some scale hardware up there for that, since I did on the other side. And now I'm going to crank down all of these nuts. I'll do that off camera so you're not bored to death. And then we'll try to get this axle on here, which we probably should have done before we put these on, but oh well. Alright, got the leaf springs in. So I'm going to open up this axle. Now, typically, this one's package is damaged, but typically I'll save this material. This is a decent quality Lexan that these come packed in. Sometimes I'll even save the foams and stuff for other projects. I've made some scale upholstery out of using this foam before. You can see that, there it is. Using this foam from the back of the axle cases. But this was excellent Lexan. This one's all scratched up, so I won't be saving it, but you can use it for I'll say windows for your rat rod builds. This one's completely destroyed, but typically it's real heavy. That's almost like a 0.2 or 0.3 gauge Lexan, so it's pretty decent stuff. Oh, so here's our Yota 1, all nice and new and greasy. And oh, I forgot they come with screws in them. I don't remember them being stainless though. So let's pull these out, and then we'll mount down from the top. I do need to find some extra leaf springs, because I don't want to run just the big leaf. You get all kinds of issues with the leaf springs and the torque. It'll wrap, like axle wrap is what they call it on real cars. So where your leaf spring, and you have such torque and your leaf springs here, then the axle wants to move like this. So under pressure, like if you were doing burnouts all the time, it would warp your leaf, so your front of your leaf spring would be all wavy. And then it don't drive worth a crap. So I always at least run a second leaf on top of the original leaf if I need the extra softness of it. That way, as it tries to wrap, there's more pressure coming from above, but it does not limit the flex. Now on the front side of this, I do have the secondary length leaf on the bottom. Oh, these screws are taking forever. But I think on the back I'm going to go on the top side. So got these out. Let me find some leaf springs and we'll come back and put this thing on. Alright guys, so I got the axle in. Now if you're familiar with these at all, these are the cast Yota axle, so it's upper and a lower half. It's not like the Yota 2 where you have the pumpkin doesn't come off. The cover on the front side doesn't come off. So these screws, like it came with some from the factory that I had to remove, they go through both casting pieces to help hold them together. There are some out here on the ends that they're smaller, that look like a 2mm screw as opposed to the 3. So you want your bolts through your leaf springs to be long enough to get all the way down through the first casting piece into the second. If you've seen the Trailfinder 2 RTR kit or truck that's ready to run, it actually has them stick out the bottom with lock nuts on the back side of it, just further strength, just to help keep the axle together. Now, familiar with the channel, you know I'm not abusive to my rigs at all, so I only had some scale hardware that was, I think one side of them reached down barely into the other half, the other one's a little short, but that's fine for me because I don't beat my rigs up. I'm not competition crawling. I'm not out smashing them all the time. I'm just building the build, and we'll make some running trail videos and stuff like that. Nothing fancy. Now, can you see the leaf spring here? I have the secondary leaf on top, so it doesn't actually affect the flex, but it will prevent axle wrap when it's under high torque, which this is a pretty quick motor. If I remember right, this thing was a wee bit fast, and I'm not sure how this chassis is going to handle that kind of speed and torque. We'll have to see. It has a 27 turn, so it had a lot of get up and go, we'll put it that way. I remember when I took it up to Colorado when I met with K-Peck, we did some crawling. I was running it around in the street in front of his house, and I've had touring cars slower than that motor ran in a Trailfinder too, so that was something else. So let me get you around here and we'll start looking at shocks. Alright guys, so I've got the shocks mounted on the axle side. You can see in the crossmember here where my holes were that I had drilled for the way that was set up with the 4-link. And I was about to drill holes in the center because I do need to move the shock mounts towards the middle. And then I remembered. I've got these here. This was the crossmember from here. I had swapped them because I don't know why, but I had swapped them out. So I'm going to go ahead and swap them back. Oh, no, I'm not. Never mind. Somebody had drilled these and they're crooked. So back to the original plan. I'm going to drill holes in the center here, and then we'll mount the shocks up like that, and it'll look a little better and give us a little bit more range of motion. I could use these up here, but it is going to put the shock at a compressed rate already. I don't know, maybe it's not so bad now that I've got the right side up. It's just going to force the shock to compress a little. I may go ahead and try that, because they look better not as close together at the front, because it just doesn't look natural that way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright guys, so there it is. You can see a little better. It's a pretty good angle. I think I'll get enough flex. It's hard to tell, these tires are so soft. Getting about 1 inch of travel. The shocks might have to be moved in later, but we won't be able to tell until we get all the running gear in the truck and get the drivetrain hooked up and the body and the battery and see how it actually handles. So I think that's as far as I'm going to get in this video. I was hoping to get the at least the transmission in, but it's already almost 4 o'clock. I've been having good time doing all this, so. But we're all leaf sprung, and it's looking better, looking more original now. I'm hoping it's not setting up. It might be setting up a little higher in the rear. I don't know. So, like I said, we'll have to play with those shocks, but I'm going to go ahead and put the body on, and we'll get a better look at its new stance. Alright guys, so that's where we're at. Sits nice and even, which is good. It does look like I'm having a bit of a wheelbase issue with the front. Not sure what's going on up here, but it looks like the tire's slightly back to the body, to the back side of the body, and it travels that way as it flexes. So, not sure yet what we're going to have to do about that. I need to take the leaf springs out and compare them to other leaf springs, because there are variations in length, and maybe I've got the wrong ones in there. I don't know. If push comes to shove, we might have to drill another hole in those leaf springs and just shift everything up one set of holes. Still, either way, it's going to require some trimming of the body. If you look back at my red body, I did pretty extensive trimming on those fenders. I widened them out quite a bit, because that truck used to have these tires on it. So, not sure how I feel about that yet. I'm liking the look though. This thing is looking fierce. And I'm happy it's leaf sprung. So anyway, that'll be a battle for another day. We'll sort that out in the next one, and as we move further, getting the drivetrain in. So appreciate you guys watching, and appreciate y'all sticking around, and I will see y'all in the next video.